Okay, Oscar, thank you for getting this in. I was going to ask you how you're doing, but then I realized you can't answer, can you? All right, so here are your two final shots. And I would say that these do have different lighting. This has, of course, a higher light ratio. This is probably like, I don't know, 1 to 4, 1 to 5. And then this one is maybe 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 1. It's hard to say. I wouldn't call it high key, but the light, aside from these descriptive shadows right here, the light's fairly... No, it's not even. You're right. Okay. Well, actually, you're not right. You didn't tell me what light ratios we're shooting at. But this side is a little bit darker than this side. So yeah, this is about 1 to 2. And then this was maybe 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Okay, so good. That's what we wanted. We wanted different moods based on the lighting. Now, here's the thing. This woman is just one of these characters that we call moody looking, right? And so it's funny because I get that your lighting is different. I mean, I see that even her clothes are described differently based on the lighting. But I don't have a different mood because she is just so intense. She's so intense. And you'll have that. Sometimes your model, like, there's this overwhelming emotion that your model carries with them all the time. And maybe it's because she was irritated that she was doing this on Saturday and kind of Sunday. But it doesn't matter what you do to the lighting. It's just going to feel about the same. Like, she looks serious and she looks annoyed. Isn't that funny? But she's lovely. I mean, she's also lovely. Okay, and so here are your contact sheets. And then I read that you experimented a little bit with reflective metering in this, but then you found that they were pretty useless. Okay, yeah, that's what I expected, that the highlights were really blown out, because everything's pretty dark here. And so my guess is that it's, you know, your meter is giving you results that will yield a medium gray in whatever subject matter you're pointing it at in reflective mode, and that's just going to be blown out. You're going to have an overexposure at that point. Okay, and then here's your, let me get rid of that. Here's your so this is, I guess, this is supposed to be your meter shot and your equipment shot, but maybe I wasn't clear. But what I want in each assignment are separate shots. I want a shot of how you're using your meter in the scene, and then I also want a shot that's where you're a little bit, you're stepped further back from the scene, and I want to see how your lights are set up. And then for this particular assignment, I specifically wanted an equipment setup shot for each of your best images. So that you should have two setup shots, one that tells us how you achieved this, and one that tells us how you achieved this. Now, I know these can be tricky because you might, I don't know, depending on how you were setting up your tools, it can be difficult to step back and have everything stay in place. But you kind of just have to be industrious and figure out how to do that for us. Those shots are important educational tools. One, your peers can just see how you did what you did with the tools that you have. And two, like, I can talk to you about either how awesome you did or maybe how you can improve. But this shot way up here isn't really serving that purpose for me. It's super tiny. I can't really enlarge it without it getting very pixelated. And I think this is just showing me the tools that you used. It's not showing me how they were set up. So to be perfectly clear, in the future, I want one shot of you holding your meter in the scene so we can see exactly how you're metering, and then however many shots it takes to describe how you had your equipment set up. So in this case, where we want two very different final images that are shot with different lighting setups, you should have two equipment shots. And maybe one of them's got your meter in it, so that's fine, but you should have a minimum of two equipment shots for this. And they really need to be descriptive, telling us how your lights were set up. Ideally, your model's still sitting there, you know. Does that make sense? Let me know if it doesn't, okay? Let me know if it doesn't. Anyways, back to your finals. Okay, so I think the lighting is actually pretty effective in both of these. I think it's doing a great job. It's describing her lovely, beautifully, and I'm really enjoying how I lose her clothes. I don't see the end of her in your very black background. I'm really getting a kick out of that. Here it's just ever so subtle the way that you've separated her from the background. It's actually really nice. So then here's my criticism, and my criticism is all compositional. I think you did a fantastic job with your lights. I desire nothing. For this Assignment, it was up to you whether or not you wanted your model to separate from the background, and I think you were just going with the dark and ornery mood that she walked in with, right? So that's perfect. So my compositional advice is this. I don't know if you knowingly have all this space here and here. I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, and because it seems like a lot of negative space to me. However, it might be the case that this negative space is supposed to communicate something to us that's a little bit more esoteric. Maybe all the things that she might be thinking about. She's looking a bit dreamy here, right? So maybe that's what's going on. I'm not really sure, you know, because you didn't mention it. And so in the future, I would love for you to just, you know, give us a few words about your composition if you think that it's necessary. 2, the tight angle you've got here between this little tiny space between where her arm ends and the end of the frame is tense. That's a really tense little bit there. So a lot of times we'd either like a more comfortable space, like a bigger space, or just go ahead and let her get cut off by the frame. But then again, this might be a sort of a thoughtful representation of the mood she walked in with, so I don't know. And then this one is a lot more clear. I really could tell on this one, this is what doesn't work. This black table, we can't really tell what this black table is. I mean, I know it's a table because I enlarged the crap out of it to look at it. Sorry about my language. I enlarged it a lot to look at it. And so I know it's a table, but you can see that it doesn't read beautifully here. It's difficult to tell what this is. She's kind of abruptly cut off by it. It's a similar color to the background. We have a little bit of reflection here, but it doesn't read very well. So I'm wondering why it's there, because I think that these images would have been just fine with a tighter crop. You know, just get rid of that table entirely. So I'm just wondering why it's there. I know it seems like I'm splitting hairs and being really picky, but I just want to give you as much feedback as I possibly can, because here, you know, at AI we work cumulatively, so we want to talk about not just lighting and how you're using your lights, but we also want to talk about composition, because you should have gone through photographic composition by now, so we want to know why you're doing what you're doing. And also, referencing the rule of thirds, this would be really lovely, actually, if you cropped it a little bit differently. That's not, I realize this is not the aspect ratio of a camera. Let me try and get that. This is a little bit more accurate right here. Because then all the action in her face would be intersecting one of those lines on the grid. Can you see how much stronger a composition this is? I don't know if you can see that. You might disagree with me entirely. It's up to you. I don't know. That's my take on it, though. Okay, and then for your write-up, what we really want in these write-ups is we want you to use the readings from each week, because that book that you have, Light, Science, and Magic, is awesome. It's a fantastic learning tool, and I promise you, you will be a better photographer if every week you put yourself to the task of applying something that you read in the book to your shoot, and then giving us a reference to it in your write-up. I only really need one for assignment write-ups. I don't need two like I do for the discussion questions, or even the lecture. I mean, the lectures are actually very informative too, so you can always just reference the lecture and tell us. And you have a lot of points here where you're talking about things that are included in the lecture, so you have lots of reference point opportunities. But we really want you to do that. We want you to be an academic here and reference sources, because it only referencing sources for your creative decision making doesn't make you sound like you need backup. It makes you sound like you know what the heck you're talking about. It's really a very professional thing to do, and it's collegiate, and we're in college, so let's do it. Okay, but other than that, you did meet the assignment criteria. You used 2 different types of light to give us an attempt at 2 different types of feeling. However, your model is so intense, it's hard to and that's not your fault. It's hard to feel differently about her, because she just, look at those eyes. I mean, she's just so intense. Like, that's what all I see really are those eyes. Anyways, I'm going on and on. I'm starting to get to 10 minutes here, so I want to stop this. Thanks for getting it in, and make sure in the future that you follow those equipment shot instructions and include those citations, or citation, just one is fine, in your write-up for your assignment. Okay, thanks.